Yeah.
There we go. Hi there, good evening. Really excited to be here with Karen. My name's Imogen and I'm hopping on to interview Karen this evening to find out more about who the Cake Coach Online is. And I know she's going to tell us lots of funny stories and she'll also be able to answer any questions you've got because Karen always makes me laugh, but I always learn a lot from her too. So Karen, can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Well, I'm Karen MacFadyen. I'm from London, in Bromley, Kent. What else do you want to know? I live with my partner. I used to have a cat. I haven't got a cat anymore. I I like narrowboating. Some of the weirdest thing that you'll know about me is I drive a 58-foot narrowboat when I'm driving a 58-foot narrowboat.
Wow.
So
58 foot.
yes,
Wow, that's huge. And that's through the canal. I know in America, do they have canals? I don't know. Venice Beach,
no,
I guess, must have been canals originally. But
yeah,
yeah, it's
yeah,
it's something great in the UK, lots of canals to navigate around and eat cake
yeah,
on.
yeah, exactly. Yes, so that's me. Yes, and I've just started doing lives at 2 o'clock every day or there or thereabouts, giving tips out on my page on the Cake Coach Online Facebook page, which now streams to um, YouTube as well. So
I love
I'm getting really techie.
You are getting picky. I've got a food business and I'm thinking, oh, I should be streaming live to YouTube as well. But I've been enjoying your 1 in 4s or 4 in 1s. I always say it the wrong way around,
Yeah,
especially days when you were talking about what to do if a client drops a cake and then phones you up after they've bought it to say they've
I know.
dropped it. I've,
Hilarious, absolutely hilarious. I actually really enjoy sort of thumbing through the beginners cake decorating forums, and some of the things that are put in there is, oh, I could really talk about that and just say, no, don't do this, or do a rant or whatever.
But it
Yes,
was such good advice. And mine is with food, but I was thinking, oh, we've had it before where someone's asked, and I guess with a cake it could happen, where they've asked for it for 4 people, and then 10 minutes before delivery is due, they've said, oh, actually, can we have it for 8? And
yeah,
I've gone, oh, yeah, I'll just pull that out of our kitchen somewhere. I haven't made it. Like if someone asks, oh, actually, I'll do a cake for this many, but can you just double it 10 minutes before delivery? You can't
yeah,
really do that, can you?
no, not gonna happen, not gonna happen. But
But
no,
sometimes you can feel like it's just you, can't you? Which is why
yeah,
it's so great having an online community. I
yeah.
want to get to know you a little bit more, Karen. So what made you, how did you change career, or were you always in cakes? What brought you to having the Cake Coach Online?
Very long story, really. I
Well,
was
it's a
always
good job
I,
I've got tea.
yes, yes. Well, it'd just be half an hour. Anybody that's watching. Um, I was always good at art at school, but the sad thing was that I went to a grammar school, and you were supposed to be really academic if you went to a grammar school, and I kind of wasn't. And things like science and history and all the rest of it, and I actually got told off for mucking about quite a lot of the time, because what I was really interested in was art. And actually, if you were good at art, needlework, and music, you would classed as one of the dunces, which was a bit sad, really. So I left school feeling like I was a bit of a flop. But what happened when I left school, I decided that I would do every single evening class known to man that was to do with craft. And I went and did flower arranging and calligraphy and pottery, you name it, I did it. Patchwork and quilting. I've got quilts upstairs that I've made, and I it never came across that I would think about doing the cake decorating until I had my daughter. And it's like when she was 1 and we had a birthday party, I thought, hang on a minute, I could make one of those, and I hadn't done cake decorating up to this point. I'd done everything else known to man. I was rubbish at silversmithing, by the way. I think I nearly blew the thing up. But anyway, whatever. I enjoyed doing everything. And weirdly enough, with all the things that I learned from calligraphy and flower arranging, when I started doing the cake decorating, learning how to wire up bouquets when you were making like sugar flowers, and learning to write on a cake, the bits that I learned from calligraphy and from flower arranging all sort of merged into one. It's like, oh, okay, I've got that skill already, which is not what you got taught in sugarcraft classes, and you didn't get taught in sugarcraft classes how to build a business. You just got told how to make a novelty cake, or how to ice this, or make a run out collar, which was like my biggest nightmare. But I ended up doing my sitting guilds, which I loved because there was a whole art course attached to that. And it's like I was in my element, so that I really enjoyed doing the art bit. And then how did I get into Cake Coach Online? Well, I was making the cakes, and of course the inevitable happened, which I talked to the girls about, is I had a stranger come and ask me, can you make one of those for me? And he's like, oh, I hadn't even thought that I was going to, have a business, as it were, and that was fine. And actually I had because my background, I was working in an interior design company, so I was already working with designers, and I was their accounts office manager. So I was already managing their time versus how long they were taking to do stuff, and charging out. We used to charge a huge amount of money for interior design, which is, but it's the same process when you look at how long is the senior designer going to take, how long is the junior designer going to take, and what are we going to charge the customer. But it was exactly the same process. And it was once I had a light bulb moment and realized I'd got into personal development as well at the time, that I thought, hang on a minute, if once I finished doing the interior design job, because the boss was getting older and she was bound to retire at any point soon, what could I do? And I suddenly realized if I could combine all of my talents together in accounts management and knowing about spreadsheets and doing timesheets and all the personal development stuff that I'd learned, put it all into a big mixing bowl, get a big wooden spoon out, mix it all up, and Cake Coach Online was born. So it's like I could help the cake decorators and home bakers with to turn their skills and passion into a business that they could be proud of. So that's where I've come from previously to where I've landed up now.
But I love that. And it's that feeling like you knew what you were really creative, and you knew that at school, but it wasn't necessarily the right environment to thrive, to be able to do that. But as you've gone through, you've brought all of your skills and talents together and made this really amazing. But it's that thing. I think sometimes people don't always realize how much intricate detail and how much work goes into baking and making a cake, and then turn that into a business. And I know, again, we're in foods, it's not the same, but when we started our food, we way undercharged because we didn't understand the value that we were giving. When I worked on projects at work, I'd always be working out how much time was spent, what that value of that time. I didn't apply it to myself, which is so stupid. And it's that learning you make. And also and I know I'm rubbish at making cakes. It's not my place of genius. I was making a birthday cake for my 3-year-old, and luckily she wanted a unicorn poo cake. So basically it was just a cake covered in the fondant and then glitter, but she wanted to help. So anything that looked wrong, I could say, oh, she helped. But it was definitely not my...
You didn't show me that picture.
No, I think everyone else putting their birthday cakes up online, I was like, maybe not ours. But it was good. But it also cost me a lot to make it. I was like, oh God, I could have just bought a pre-made one for about half the cost.
Oh yeah.
To make it, but mine tasted better, but it didn't look as good. But I love it.
That's the thing. I don't think people, and I certainly didn't realise when I got married, I wasn't into cake decorating. And my sister, who had done a cake decorating course, offered to make the 3-tier wedding cake at the time. It's like, oh yes, thank you very much. I had no idea until I started doing cakes myself how much all the fruit and the marzipan and the boxes and the boards and the ribbons and all the rest of it was for a 3-tier. I nearly had a fit, and I thought, oh my goodness, I just let my sister gift this to me. And it's like, I think a lot of friends ask the cake decorators, or could you just like do me this like simple whatever, and have got no clue, not a clue, as to what they're actually asking for, in terms of cost, not only the cost of the materials, but the cost of the time, when they say, could you just, It's yes, interesting. It's only once you get into the cake decorating, you know that it's much more expensive than you actually thought in the first place.
So true. And there's a lady I go to, like WI, and she was making her wedding cake for her daughter, and she was getting married, and it was going to be Peter Rabbit, and she was making the little rabbits every single week and building it up. But the amount of time that took is just amazing to build this big cake of it. I don't think that anyone fully appreciated the weeks that had gone into doing it.
No, massive labour of love to do that. But I bet it looked absolutely gorgeous. But yeah.
But so you've turned something in that you did for fun, and you've turned it into something that you now do as a job, and you enjoy. And what made you though change to? You got that first where a stranger asked you for a cake, but was there anything else going on that made you think, oh, now's the time for me to start my cake business, and I'm going to really go for it?
Oh. Yeah, it was life circumstances really, because I'd actually got divorced, and I'd ended up with when we got divorced, my daughter was 5 and my son was 2. So I was now a single mum with an ex-husband who actually paid diddly squat nothing. So when people started asking me, and I became known as a mad cake lady down at our local squash club, because that was the other
what
thing.
A name.
I know.
You choose that business name, the Mad Cake Lady.
The Mad Cake Lady, yeah, exactly. But they knew that, if you want a pint of Guinness cake that looks like a pint of Guinness, ask Karen, she can do it, And to be fair, at the time, because we are going back a little bit, of course, there wasn't Waitrose and Marks and Spencer's and all the big supermarkets hadn't jumped on the bandwagon of doing machine cakes or anything. So it was a real novelty to have a cake shaped like squash shoe or whatever it was, some mad things that I've done. So yeah, I forgot what I was going to say now.
When was that, Karen? Is that like the 80s? Is that the 90s?
Oh no, see, now if I tell you, I'm going to date myself, and my age is a very, very hidden secret, because I got to a certain age and started going backwards. So people say, how old are you? I don't know. Is it relevant? I don't know.
I stopped at 15.
Yeah. I still act like a teenager, so it's as far as I'm concerned.
I was trying to work that out from. I remember getting the first ever kind of hamburger cake that I seen in Waitrose, and I thought it was the most exciting thing ever just to see them on sale like that in the shop. So I was trying to work it out. But
yeah.
Sorry, go on.
Well, I started doing cakes because my daughter was born in '89, so I started doing cakes probably in '91, I suppose, and then the squash club people said, "Oh, Karen could do that for this party." So I used to get all the big, if somebody was turning 50 or 60 or whatever, a special cake with lots of people. I just used to get the contract because the people that were running the bar knew me, and that was easy. So I always had business sort of falling in my lap, as it were. But to me, it was really important to have the business, because it just gave me that bit of extra money to pay for essentials, really, because everything was all a bit tight at the time. So so it was good.
I can imagine with 2, and then you're also trying to work around having children there as well, so that you can do both. And I think sometimes people have this lovely notion of that you can just, I know people think that with the food business, that I'm a bit like Mary Poppins, they're cooking in the day and then the children come home in the evening and it's all lovely. You're like, that's not quite what it looks like. And you feel a bit lonely sometimes because you think it's just you that's trying to juggle all of this, don't you? And you kind of want to chat it through with someone else.
I
wanted to ask, because I know, it shows how long you've been doing cakes, how long you've been doing that and building a business. When did you start calling it the cake coaching business? When did you change to doing coaching as well as making cakes for your customers?
Oh, there's a funny story there, because I got involved in personal development only because my ex-sister-in-law phoned me up and she said, we're going firewalking. I went, excuse me? She said, we're going firewalking. I went, we are? We? She said, yeah, we're going firewalking. So I'm actually quite competitive, and I thought Joe's going to be quite annoying if I don't go. She's going to say she's done it and I didn't do it, so I'm going to have to go and do this firewalking thing, whatever this thing is, right? So we ended up at a hotel in Heathrow, which was hilarious, and they made this massive firewalk out in the car park. I'm sure it burnt all the tarmac, whatever it was. I just can imagine what the people in the Renaissance Hotel at Heathrow in Bath Road thought when they looked out the window to see this massive conference of people walking across this hot flames. But it was weird because when I did that, and that actually naturally led into learning NLP and becoming a practitioner and a master, etc. And then having done all that, I thought, oh, it's a bit bright. You just spent a load of money learning all this personal development. What are you going to do with it? So I added on sort of life coaching skills and then business coaching skills. And then it was like, oh, well, I better go and join a breakfast group to go and help some people with their businesses. Well, that was another story because me and standing up and talking for a minute about the same thing every single week when you've eaten sausages at 7:50 in the morning is not. I was just seriously, don't ever ask me to go to a breakfast meeting. So that point, I decided, well, I'm obviously not very good at standing up and talking about me and what I do. And that was when I was just doing plain business coaching. And then I went to another conference that said, oh, talking about being a lazy coach, right? And I thought, oh, what's a lazy coach? And that was, he's talked about being an online coach. And I thought, oh, I could do that. I could take what I know with cake, all the cake decorating stuff, and put that online and start selling, which is when the cake calculator came about. And I've sold that into, I don't know, about 53 countries across the world to help people price. I mean, it's totally mad because we were advertising that on Facebook. And if you put your ingredients in for your recipe and you put your shopping from the supermarket in, it works out how much the actual ingredients of that cake are.
That's brilliant. I'm kind of thinking it's like we used to have a tax calculator, not quite as fun, but you could put it in and it would magically do it for you. And it's like exactly. That's just on your website, Karen.
That's on my website, yeah, that's on my website. Yeah, and then we put it into the Cake Baker's Toolkit as one of the products that's in there because it was a bundle of products then available. But you can get the cake calculator on its own if you just want that. But the bundle of products, if you're starting out, is a real help because there's like an order form, so you can fill it in with your customer and send it across to them so they know what they've ordered, etc. So yeah, there's a few bits and bobs on there.
Would that have been helpful for you when you started, Karen? Because you must have felt that real kind of overwhelm when you get the first person ask you for a cake and you're like, how do I know how to price it? How much is it going to cost? I don't know what went through your head.
I suppose I didn't realise until a lot later that actually I was lucky because of my background in the working with the designers, because I'd already got that process dialed in of this is how long something takes and this is the value of that time. So therefore, obviously, a cake isn't a room or a palace like we used to decorate and all the rest of it. But it was the same process, completely scaled down, and it was. In hindsight, easier for me just because of that background. And I realised suddenly that actually not everybody knew what I knew. That was my light bulb moment. It's like, oh, how could I share what I know and help the girls, or maybe lads as well, but mostly girls that are following me? How could I help them better to actually get to grips with this whole pricing thing? And it's not only the pricing, it's the having the confidence to then ask for the right money and not be bullied by the bargain hunters, because there are bargain hunters out there and they really irritate me, and I'm on a mission to get to get all the cake decorators pricing properly and not dropping below all the other girls that are in their district and then them winning all the contracts. If everybody rose their prices to the proper amount, then everybody would be on a fair playing field,
I just had an image of you then, Karen, like a superhero with the cake writer saying, charge what you're worth. I've seen that a lot with, especially during kind of lockdown and things where people have turned their hands to different things. It's brought some of the prices down, and sometimes with photography, that's right, but you can see the difference. You can. There's a clear difference of how they're presented, how they talk to, and everything. It's always there, isn't it, at different times?
Yeah, absolutely.
I wanted to know, because you've been making cakes for such a long time. What's your favourite ever cake that you've made for someone?
My favourite cake, I think some of the wedding cakes that I've made, I've really enjoyed doing, because of course that encompassed being able to do the floristry bit on the top as well and make it all arty. The worst cake that anybody could ever ask you for is actually when they're really prescriptive about exactly what they want, and there's no wiggle room, and especially if they're not artistic. I had a girlfriend who is she likely to be watching this now? I don't know. And
it's funny if she does.
I know, absolutely. I'll change the name. But she always was very prescriptive about exactly what she wanted. And if she said, "Oh, I want a cake with a frill around it, and I want a butterfly," she'd tell you the make of the butterfly. It's like, and then she'd give you a picture to be even more annoying. And it's like, yeah, I could have googled that. Thanks. I know what a red admiral looks like. Thank you. Or then she'd ask for a cake with flowers on it, but could it also have models of cats and dogs on it? It's like, have one or the other. They really don't go. So I probably got more memorable cakes that I hated than the ones that I loved.
What is the worst one you've ever done, Karen?
Oh, the funniest one. Somebody asked me for a wedding cake. I don't know where this lady came from, but she'd got a picture from a magazine, and it was a 3-tier wedding cake with. It was very Romanesque because it had gold. I had to spray these pillars, so it had gold pillars like holding the tiers up, and then it had these gold cherubs that I had to model, and sort of swags and tails with the red icing. So whilst it looked right when it was a 3-tier wedding cake, because it was kind of in proportion and looked quite regal and all the rest of it, she only wanted 2 tiers. So now it looked like somebody had stolen a tier, and it didn't look right at all. And I said to her, "It's not going to look right as a 2." No, that's what I want. It's like, so of course it was one of those cakes that I did, and you're forever fiddling with it because you feel it doesn't look right creatively, but that is what the lady asked for, so you have to do it.
It's quite hard when you get that, or if a flavour isn't going well. It's kind of like,
yeah, what do you do?
It is their choice, but then you want things that you can be really proud of, don't you? I think
exactly.
It's difficult.
Exactly. To take pictures of.
Yeah.
Not in a box, by the way, and that's my other rant. Don't take a picture in a box and then put it on Facebook and say, "What do you think about cake?"
Why not in a box, Karen?
Or with a radiator behind. That's another one of my rants. It's like, if you just spend hours and hours and hours creating a beautiful creation, it only takes another, few minutes to set it up on a tablecloth with a backdrop nicely. So you've hidden the cooker top and the washing up in the background and all the rest of it. And I see so many beautiful cakes, and the girls have just left them in the box. And it's like, oh, why? Because you can't use that in a portfolio, really, because it now looks a bit like, well, I couldn't really be bothered one way or the other. So there you go, there's a picture of it.
I think sometimes with food, I can be guilty of that, because you've made it and you're so happy with it, and then you take a picture. You're like, "Oh, I haven't taken a picture," and you take it as it's going out the door, rather than having that as a stage in your process, which is what we've tried to do a bit more.
Yes.
You get those photos for your future orders.
Definitely.
But it's so. And I just want to say at home, if anyone's got any questions, just drop them in the comments and I can see them. I've just logged into Facebook as well, and let us know where you're watching from and say hello. But one of the other questions I wanted to ask Karen is, because I just have a feeling you have someone really interesting, is who inspires you in cake decorating or cake making? Who do you really admire?
Oh, the lady that I really admire is Callie Hooper. Her art is just jaw-droppingly beautiful. I mean, she posts these beautiful fine art pictures, and she does painting on cakes, but what she doesn't do with cakes is just astonishing. And she's won awards, but at the big sugar craft shows and that. And you just, my art was good-ish, but never, it couldn't hold a candle to what she produces. So anybody that's a magnificent artist, because things have changed a bit with cake decorating over the years, because now it's very much, you go to the cake decorating shop and you can buy a cutter. It's very much almost like a patchwork of, like, you roll this thing out and you cut this and then you stick it on the cake, whereas in olden times, you used to have to do it all by hand, and it was because the cutters weren't available. There's so many more things that are available now, as more and more people think of a new technique or whatever, and then everything becomes a rage. Like these drip cakes, everybody cake has got a drip down the side of it, because somebody worked out if you put chocolate or whatever at a certain temperature, then it would just like flood off the edge of the cake. So, and then that becomes a thing for a while until the next thing that comes along.
It's so true though, isn't it? Because I remember my mum did a lot of cake decorating on Floristry. They were her two creative outlets that she would do a lot of. And she'd always have like tracing paper to put her designs on, to try and transfer them onto the cake, how she was going to do, and kind of all these different assembly bits, but there was nothing really ready made. You couldn't just get it printed or done. But what I also found really fascinating was I just kind of assumed that everyone's mum was an excellent cake baker and made these amazing cakes. I remember, like, for I think it might have been like my 5th birthday, I had penguins coming down and she'd made it like slightly electric, so that everybody was like, where did you get it from? I was like, oh, mummy made it. But I just assumed everyone's parents would make, and it's only as I've got older that I've realised, it kind of jogged my memory reading your post today, and that we do need kind of help and support from other people to be able to do these things, which is one of the reasons you've got your Cake Coach online community. And I wanted to ask you a little bit more about it, what it is, and how people can get involved as well, because I can't believe we've been chatting for 27 minutes, Karen.
I know. Who knew? There's a change. Well, my community is the thought of, I still have on my website, I've got a course called Cash for Cakes. And that's been on the website, and it's an 8-module thing. And basically it was a standalone, work on your own. Yes, there's email support coming out, but I thought, how can I help the cake decorators more if they're struggling with pricing and all the rest of it? Just giving them the tools to do it. They probably need to have a chat with me and say, I'm stuck with this and whatever. And I thought, what could I do? So, of course, I came up with this idea of, well, I could have a membership. So it would be like a community, so we could actually all support each other and maybe have an accountability partner, so that people can work together with somebody to say, what are you up to today? The girls that want to start a business or continue to run a business. So that was my vision, of being able to take all the stuff that I've learned from the personal development world as well, like the confidence, which is that's the biggest thing that the girls are lacking in the pricing. Is like, if the thing is, if you go in with a price and you're really not sure of the origins of whether it's right or whether it's wrong, you only need one bargain hunter to realize that you're not really sure, and they go, oh, can I just have it, And a couple of days ago, I said on my live, you wouldn't go into a hairdresser and start going, oh, look at that price, £97 for a cut and blow dry. Oh, could I have it for 60, please? You just wouldn't. You wouldn't dream of it. So I'm not sure why people think it's okay to do it with the cake decorators. The only reason I can, because the thing was, maybe I'm bullshit, but nobody ever queried me, which was weird. Nobody ever queried me, because there was a certain way that I used to position the price and tell them, compared to this, it's that, and all the rest of it. So there's certain strategies that I use so nobody ever said, oh, that's a bit pricey. Can I have it? No, maybe they were frightened of me. So
No, I think back to some of your 4-in-1s, you asked the right questions, you knew how to position it, and the skills that sometimes we take for granted. And I know, like, when I started my business, I felt quite lonely. And some of the things that I did, I wouldn't have done now, because I would have learned not to have done that, and from someone else. And also sometimes just to have a moan like, oh God, I thought it was going to take this long and it took that long to do it. What could I have done differently? It's the skills that you can share together and be part of, I hate the word journey, but be on that journey together as you grow your business. And so how can you get involved in your community?
Well, at the moment, I'm just sort of building up what we're going to have inside the membership. But we've decided, whatever happens, that Cash for Cakes is going to be part of the new membership. So anybody that joins into and it's going to be called the Cake Circle.
I love that name.
Anybody that joins the Cake Circle is going to get access to the Cash for Cakes course, so that they can work their way through it at their own pace. And if they've got any queries, problems or whatever, then I'm there to talk, because my vision was to be able to get a guest speaker in to talk. I've got a photographer waiting food photographer waiting in the wings, desperate to come and talk. I've got confidence coaches. I've got people that know about Instagram. There's all sorts of things. When you think about building a business, if you're starting from scratch and you've got no idea and you've never been in a small business environment, it's really quite daunting. So I thought, what can I do? Because a lot of the cake memberships are all about the craft skills. And actually, a lot of the craft skills, you can go onto YouTube and just Google how do I, and then 20 different versions of the same thing all turn up. So it's like, how useful is a craft membership? Yes, I can see a craft membership of having a craft tutor there to say, it all went horribly wrong, how could I have made it better? I can totally see that as a real help for the girls. But
that real-time feedback, I think, rather than just watching something.
Exactly.
And I think it's that, I know when I started a small business, it was quite overwhelming knowing where to start. And everyone tries to be super helpful. And they're like, well, I see you're on Facebook. Why aren't you on Instagram? Why are you not on Pinterest? Have you looked over here? Oh, I seen Joe Blogs down the road. He stood out there with a sign yesterday. Why aren't you? And you're like, I'm one person. Where do I start? And I know, for example, like I built my kind of space on Facebook and then went to Instagram. But actually, with food, maybe that was the wrong way around. But it's those learnings and sharing. And I think if someone can help break that down for you so that it's one thing you're looking at each week. I know I'm in a membership and each week we look at something different. And next week I'm looking at PR and I'm like, oh, that's something I've forgotten to do for a long time. I know to do it, but I can't do it. And it's having that, I think, help. And also momentum, because I think when you can work at home on your own, and even though you can chat to people, your momentum goes up and down and motivation, and we can sometimes feel like it's just us that happens to. But I think being in a community where you're all growing a business and looking at how you're starting or moving it further along, if someone's having a bit of a low day, you can talk to each other about it, but realize it's not just you, because that's been one of my biggest learnings from being in a membership, that I've gone, oh, it's not just me that doesn't have this huge roaring go every morning. Sometimes I'm like, oh, do you think that's fair?
Absolutely. I mean, when I've been in memberships or masterminds, just to have a few special people to ring up and say, what would you do if X or Y or whatever, and there's already somebody that's got the answer. If you can't get hold of the main person that was running it, you'd always find somebody that had either come across the challenge previously and then had some good ideas as to how to get over it,
Right. So, and I think we've gone over time, so I just want to, how can people join? Can they join now, or is it open? How do they get involved?
What I've got at the moment, because we're still working on it, I have got a waitlist link. So if I can give you the waitlist link, check me out with all my technology.
I'm loving the tech. So you would look at this. It's like so professional, Karen. I wanted the cake to come up with it.
The which? A cake cover?
The cake cover.
So yes, Cake Circle membership waitlist. So if you go to that link, you'll have to write it down because obviously it's not a clickable link within the video.
We can put it in the comments as well, so
we'll
that
put it in the comment. Yes, so it's a clickable link in the comments. And and then in the new year, because my techie people have just announced that they're shutting. It's like, oh, thank you very much for that. So they're shutting on about the 15th of December for December. And it's like, oh, okay, well, if I wanted your help then, I'll just wait till January. So sometime in January, it will be open. Ta-da! Thank you very much, techie people in South Africa. So anyway, that's the plan. And yeah, it'd be great to have some lovely cake decorators that are all starting out. Because did you know, I heard that there's a 20% upsurge in people starting baking from home businesses, like registrations for the UK.
Wow.
Now, I don't know whether that actually applies to the USA as well, because I've got a lot of USA listeners too, but that's a lot, because a lot of people have lost their main job or whatever, and then realise that they actually really enjoy baking and think, perhaps I can make some money out of doing this. And yes, you can. And there's people that make very, very good money out of doing it, but you have to know how to structure it, what to do first, what to do next, how to ask for money, how to price money so that you're not shooting yourself in the foot each time you put an order out.
And you're saving time as well, because when you're starting, often we don't think to invest in ourselves a little bit, and it's that time that it takes to learn things, to know things, to grow, and just to know even where to look. Because you said who one of your most inspirational cake I had never heard of them, so I wouldn't know some of those places to look, and I think that's helpful when someone's gone before you can do it. And you've got Christmas then to get all the orders out, because sometimes that's a really hard time to work on a business. And and then in January you've got that time to get ready to start for the year, because you can take bookings throughout for the whole year for birthdays, Christmas. You can start doing that in January and getting some of that there, so you're getting the income in on. So it's a really good time to be looking. So January is the magic sign up day, so you can go and get on the wait list, and that means you will get any updates about what's coming, everything, and then magic day that you can start. And how much will the membership be, Karen? Because that's always, sometimes when people don't tell me, I go, oh, is it going to be £1 million or something?
No, for our pioneer members, which is because they're starting out with us, so they're going to help us create our lovely membership together, and we'll be friends and learn from each other.
You're part of the Cake Circle, love it.
That would be my phone. Sorry about this. That's hashtag working from home. Is I'm going to let that go because I think him indoors has gone out. But anyway, what was the thing?
Hang it up. That would have been.
So it's going to be £18 a month, or I think that works out at $24 a month. And then there's a deal on, if you pay for the year, you get a 40% discount. But I think that's what we're working on at the moment.
Amazing. That's really affordable then. Okay, that's less than.
Yeah. I mean, considering, if you went to have a one-to-one with any form of business coach, they'd probably charge you £200 an hour.
Yeah.
Having that one-to-one with somebody, so if you can be in and around a business coaching environment for a very small amount of money. And the other thing is, Cash for Cakes is on my website. The recommended retail price is $497, and that's being put in to that membership for free, so you've got access to that for nothing. So £18 a month is absolutely diddly.
It's that. What are you doing? I want to be in the Cake Circle, because I love this. I just think it's cool. But I want to ask you one last question before you go. What's your favorite flavors of a cake? Do you have one that you could say, or top 3 if it's too hard?
I love chocolate cake, and I love carrot cake. And actually, do you know what? I really, really love rich fruit cake if it's like soaked in brandy and got the marzipan, like the Christmas cakey. I really like that as well. But I mean, all the different flavors of cupcakes that you can get now as well. It's just like, oh my goodness, yeah. I do look at it and think, oh, that's a lot of calories. But anyway, whatever.
But it tastes good. I do a lot of wild swimming, and everyone always makes cake to share, and we have a bit of a cake afterwards. It's brought me to some new flavors, but I love it.
Yeah, I bet.
Oh, but Karen, and you're back on. People, if you're on YouTube, you can click subscribe below, so you can subscribe to Karen's channel so you don't miss anything. And if you're on Facebook, you can share. If you're watching on the replay, let us know. And yeah, any questions that you've got, you can obviously go and sign up for the waitlist or send Karen a DM. She'll be happy to answer your questions. Well, I've just said she would, but I'm sure Karen would.
If I know the answer, of course.
And you'll be back on tomorrow with what's your question? What question are you answering tomorrow, Karen?
Oh goodness. It was my customer's relative complained about the cake. This is one that I picked up from one of the forums again. It's like my customer's relative, not the lady that bought it, but the relative. So it was like the fight that went on about this cake, which was like, wow.
But I'm looking forward to listening. If you're listening to this on replay, you can probably click through and listen to that now.
Yeah.
But we'll see you later. And
okay. Yeah. And we'll put that link in the comments. In the comments. Yeah. Fabulous.
See you later. Bye.
Thank you, Imogen. Bye.